Yeah, please.
Hi, everybody. This is the IOTA Community Governance call. It's Thursday, the 15th of December, shortly before Christmas. We are here with, I don't know how you spell your name,
Paolo.
Pim Gangi. He's from
Paolo,
Lexdao.
Paolo, Paolo.
Paul, okay,
No, Paulo.
Paul from Lexdao. He will give us some introduction and some information about legal setups, possible legal setups, and especially will be here to answer questions that we have around the setup of the legal entity for the Shimmer Community Treasury. So happy to have you here. Welcome, everyone. Um, as always, feel free to ask questions, but I think JD has prepared already a list of questions, and I think we can be freely adding and talking on the spot about what we would have in mind and what could happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Paulo at the regulatory meeting, and he seemed very well versed with the European regulations, especially on NFTs, which was the focus of that meeting. I happened to reach out to him, and as we know, our committee is deciding to choose between Switzerland, Liechtenstein, or Marshall Islands for our Treasury DAO. I tried to get a bunch of questions from the community. So I think for this, Paulo has a background of what we want to do, what the DAO wants to do, and our sets of questions. So if we can give him the floor, and let's just try not to interrupt him. We could hold our questions to the later, unless he has any questions for us, and then hopefully we'll have some free time after. Would that work, Paulo? To get a
Yeah, absolutely.
who you are, Lex DAO?
Yeah,
Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
yeah, thank you. I wanted just to make a couple of clarifications. I am from LexDAO, meaning I am a member of LexDAO, which is an association of lawyers, crypto lawyers, and legal engineers. But here in this situation, I'm not representing as LexDAO. LexDAO doesn't provide legal consulting to anybody, just to be clear. It's just an association of lawyers. So as a body does not give legal consulting. LexDAO as a sub-DAO, which is called Clinique, which is different, is close, is linked at the same person, but is a different entity from LexDAO. And this sub-DAO called Clinique is divided into houses. So I have one of the houses of Clinique, which is mine, which is called Festina Lente, which is Latin for do it quickly but slowly. And so as within the Clinique, we give to DAOs or companies, people in the Web 3.0 environment, free of charge legal advisory. But it's just the beginning. We don't really go, and we cannot go so much in depth. So this call will be under the Clinique. If for whatever reason, and this is the model that we are using the Clinique, so we give a free of charge initial consultation. Then, if you want, you or other people, any kind of legal advisory, that will be under our professional, not Clinique, because I repeat, Clinique is not a professional body. That will be under my law firm. There might be a contract, but here is not. So I hope this is clear. So
yes. Okay, yeah. We understand we're just seeking experience until we really retain any person by contract for legal. Anything is not directed towards the DAO or specific, or can be taken as this is 100% certain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
this was the first clarification. The second one is that I am a lawyer from Italy, from the European Union, and like other lawyers that are in the Web 3.0 in the crypto world, who are not from places like Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Cayman Islands, these kind of places, but come from places like, I don't know, Italy, France, Germany, the United States, Canada. I will never suggest anybody to set up a DAO in Germany or in Italy or in the US, this kind of situation. No? So what I can do it in terms of advisory is to explain to DAOs that need to understand where to incorporate, where in which jurisdiction to create the legal wrapper. I can present the advantages and the disadvantages. From a general overview, bird watch, I could say, point of view. Where my position is different from, for example, lawyers from I don't know, the Cayman Island or Switzerland, because if you are a lawyer from Switzerland, you will say that Switzerland is the best place where to incorporate, which is obvious. My position is different, so I will be happy to answer your questions, but this I think was important. Is I will give you a general overview in terms of advantages and disadvantages. And,
Absolutely.
And also take into consideration, this is probably the third clarification, and as you say in English, last but not least, take really into consideration that this is this kind of things. It doesn't exist the best jurisdiction or the worst jurisdiction. Everything depends on your cases, on your needs, on who you are, what you want to do it on. So everything is like a suit, has to be tailor-made. So those were my clarification. If you want, we can go with your questions then.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we absolutely understand that, and we really thank you for taking the time to come here. So, yeah, I think the objective that we want to look at is, like you said, there's no one best place, but I kind of explained what our DAO is. That we want to be a nonprofit treasury that funds grants to grow the IOTA ecosystem. We want the DAO to be run by a committee, set of members that is voted with tokens, the Shimmer tokens, by the community, as well as we may have some large proposal projects that get voted for by the community. So I think first and foremost, we want, one of our big focuses is, what does the liability protection give to not only just the members that are running the treasury, but also individuals that vote with their tokens on maybe a governance decision, or can members vote for maybe let's say this. Let's just start on the formation entity, like by using straight tokens of what country, if we were comparing Marshall Islands, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland Association, are even they hold legal precedence to be a DAO?
Okay, I'm sorry. The question and the answer are a little bit tricky.
Sure.
Because you can create a company with limited liability, and I assume here everybody has an idea what is limited liability.
Yes.
In a company, I don't know, an LLC, a limited liability company in the UK, whatever. Every jurisdiction has limited liability company. So you could create a limited liability company for sure in Switzerland, for sure in Liechtenstein, for sure in the Marshall Islands, and in a lot of places. The question is, and here comes the trick, that limited liability it's true, it works, it's 100% guaranteed within that jurisdiction. The problem is, if that limited liability works, it is effective for who are into that, operate within that entity, but do not live in that country. So let me give you a good example. For example, you create a company in Switzerland, no? A company that within the Swiss legal framework gives limited liability. Whatever you will do in Switzerland, you will be covered in terms of legal liability, because you will go to a if somebody and then will be for the directors, for members of the entity, for shareholders, whatever people are under the umbrella of this company in Switzerland. No, whatever might happen, you could go to a court, and the Swiss judge will say, okay, that's a limited liability company. By law, the Swiss judge is obliged to say that that company is a limited liability. What happens if the same Swiss company, for whatever reason, is doing something in the United States? Let's say in Florida. Let's say that Swiss company organizes an event in Florida. Let's imagine there is some problem, an incident, just to make an example, no? And somebody, and there was someone, let's say a director of that Swiss company, who lives in Florida, and who made all the arrangements, all the contracts on behalf of the Swiss company, Now, I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm saying that this might happen.
Yep.
It might happen if you have somebody who wants to, for whatever reason, during this event there is a problem, so somebody wants to sue this Swiss company. The lawyers of this prospective plaintiff might argue at some point that Swiss company has doesn't exist in the U.S., doesn't exist in Florida, has not been incorporated in the U.S. So basically, that director that was making those arrangements was making those arrangements as a natural person, so can be sued directly. This is, and I repeat, I'm not saying that this will happen. What I'm trying to say is that if you this question is tricky because it does exist. What this exists in terms of what I can tell you is that no country is obliged to give a recognition of limited liability given by another country, unless there is an international treaty. For example, within the European Union, there is an you can call the European Union is based on international treaty. So within that treaty, every company created in one of the member states of the European Union will be automatically, and no judge can go against this notion, this concept, are automatically recognized in all the 27 member states. But if does not exist an international treaty like this, there is no really automatic recognition. There is always the possibility that somebody might say at some point that company exists in Liechtenstein but does not exist here, so we really want to sue the persons who acted on behalf of the company, even if they are directors. This is the general framework. I understand it doesn't sound very like a clear situation, but that's really the point here.
It makes total sense, and kind of similar to, I remember when you were saying, I think I asked something about how European Union laws govern over Liechtenstein, and you said, two things. One, if a company sets up in, let's say, Liechtenstein or Switzerland, but they do 85% of their business in Germany, well, it's clearly apparent that that organization is setting up in another country, but the majority of their business is in a neighboring country to almost avoid that. So it made me think about, and with, I think what you said too, and two things here, we would be issuing proposals. So there is this potentiality that in that gray area where the DAO in some way is acting in another jurisdiction, which some DAOs don't even have contracts with their proposal grantees, but maybe this is good that the DAO writes a proposal that says, hey, we are funding you this grant, but this is under the condition that you follow all the rules and we have no interaction after to try to separate that, like we're not acting outside of Switzerland or Liechtenstein. We're granting these funds to you, and then we have no other participation in your own country, which we fund. Having some kind of contract, not that it would be perfect, but would it offer an extra little bit of protection to say if someone tried to sue the DAO and say, well, you funded this operation and this operation acted illegally in United States, let's say, we could say, well, we had the contract and that they signed that once we give these funds to you, you are to abide by your country's laws and regulations and that we have no dealing with it after that.
Yeah. I agree with what you say. So to come back to the main point here, many DAOs operate internationally all over the world. So from that point of view, you're really the real risk is that in terms of the regulatory status of the token. And especially the SEC might find that the token is a security. And there was an interview some days ago of Gary Gensler, which said, if you tap into the US market, even if you're not incorporated in the US market, in terms of selling your tokens, we think it's our problem to see if your token is a security or not. So that's probably where the question of the liability comes. On the other hand, I will never suggest anybody to set up a company in the US because it's even trickier.
Let me ask you this, because I'm actually applying to be the program lead position along with 3 other gentlemen. And we have one reviewer that's also American. I'm American myself. The reviewer will be a contractor, like a 1099 part-time. The program lead will be a full-time, but probably could set up as a contractor if need be. I hate the U.S. jurisdiction. It's really annoying. But would there be more risk to the DAO if an American is employed? But again, all the operations are
No. I'm sorry to cut you off. No. I don't think there is a risk for the DAO.
Okay.
No.
Cool. Awesome.
I don't think so.
If you allow me, gents,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that to the degree when the decentralization indicator is respected enough, a single citizenship or residence should not be a problem.
Okay. I'll just introduce, guys. This is Svetlik, and he works with Paulo, also from the Lex DAO. So just to give an introduction, and we appreciate your time, Svetlik, for company.
Yeah, sorry for joining late. I got stuck with another meeting. I have a very quick comment on the previous point that you made, specifically the DAO terms and the following arrangements should have precise paragraphs outlining the liability limitations and indemnification by the grants receiver. In this order to limit DAO risk exposure, so to say.
Yeah, I like that. Because I know some DAOs, they don't even have contracts, and someone did bring up, Adam actually brought up that we should have a contract, and I think that's a great idea now, thinking that through. So, well, cool. All right.
Maybe I have a question shortly.
Mhm.
Because as we understood now, it's very important where the DAO or whoever offers the liability conducts business. And given that the plan of the operation of the Grand DAO is basically only happening as an online thing, yeah, so there's no presence in reality in the space, so we will not be doing any work even if we would set up in Liechtenstein or Switzerland. It's basically purely happening over emails or over contracts. Does it influence, or would it influence, if a majority of the grants that we hand out go to a specific country? I mean, we have a large German community. Let's say 60% or 70% of the grants we give out in the first year go to German entities or German persons. Would this somehow influence the jurisdiction where we set up, or to be seen where we set up, or would this not be any problem? So basically, still, if we set up in the Marshall Islands or in Liechtenstein and we handle all our businesses directly from there via online media, Discord, email, whatever, it doesn't matter where the funds are going to in the end.
But are you giving what are you giving? Your tokens, the SMR token, or what kind of?
All grants would be given out in stablecoins. So we would convert our token to USDC, USDT, or whatever, and the projects will receive stablecoin.
I'm not a US. I'm not a German lawyer for sure. So I will say I will check very carefully with some German professional.
I was thinking too. I remember when you guys talked about like, let's say a company incorporates in Liechtenstein, and they're doing NFT sort of financial business, and they want to not follow European MiCA regulations, so they set up in Liechtenstein, but then they're doing 90% of their activities in one country, Germany, or 80%. Then it seemed like, the European Union and any other country, I'm sure America would do the same thing, is say, I think America has this rule, hey, you're doing more than 50% of your business. This looks like you're trying to avoid this. So I was talking with Greg yesterday when we were going over questions, and said it might be good to set a precedence in the DAO foundation that no more than 45% of all activities can be in one country or regulatory environment, to ensure that we don't, we just give extra protection of ourselves to show that, hey, we're global. We're not trying to circumvent anything. Would doing something like that help if we set like, hey, we won't do more than 45% in any one country, just to avoid that potential risk?
My opinion, yes, but I repeat, depends on any single jurisdiction. So you should, but yes, in my opinion, yes, absolutely.
I also think it's a good move, and the extra layer of protection that you're actually getting is the fact that you don't conduct any B2C operations, for instance. You're giving grants based on specific conditions, and if the recipient meets the preset criteria, they should be eligible for receiving grant. At this point, I haven't read any documentation to go into more details, but I'm just theorizing. So the geographical factor, the risk factor, can be mitigated with this internal limitation set. On the other hand, disbursement of stablecoin batches to the recipient should go under a very under very comprehensive framework. The conditions and the rules that recipient should adhere to should be crystal clear. No funny wording and no some hidden rules that may result in implications later.
Is this specifically related to the issue to the giving out of stablecoins? Would it be relaxed if we would hand out native tokens instead?
Yeah.
That
Well,
might be
might be easier in my view. Perhaps Paolo has something else in mind, but under the pressing regulatory approach by MiCA,
Yeah.
Disbursement of stable coins, especially in large amounts, should be mindful.
Ah, yeah, I read this. There's even there might be some planned limits for reporting and stuff like this on stablecoins, yeah, in MiCA. Okay, that's good to know.
So, on that, if the DAO's set up, let's say in Liechtenstein, and they're not doing more than 40% of their business in the European Union, and we fund a proposal and we issue stable coins, because the proposal receiver's bank account, let's say, or wallet address, well, that's even hard. You don't even know where their wallet. If we know they're incorporated in the European Union, then we would be obliged to follow the European regulation on stablecoins.
No. There are no European regulation about stable coins. I mean, there is MiCA that Svetlana was mentioning before, but that applies if you are, in my opinion, at least, if you are issuing the token. Or in my opinion, if you are giving grant to recipients in the to companies, people, entities, associations, whatever, based in the European Union, you are giving them stable coins. In my opinion, it's like giving them cash, fiat money.
Okay.
Is different if you're giving them, in my opinion, your own token, because that is where MiCA or MiFID, if you remember my presentation, the help might come into force.
Okay.
That is, I don't know, Svetlana, if you have different idea, but that is my opinion.
Okay.
I respect
Do you
your
know
point.
at all?
Can
Go
I have
ahead,
a second?
Svetlana.
Just a last word here. I will be cautious of MiCA in terms of stable coins distribution, mainly about the platform through it will occur, and the size of these transfers.
Okay.
These are the factors that you should carefully consider.
Okay. If we look at the DAO as in strictly holding legal precedents, such as membership may be designated through ownership of tokens. Maybe membership is an NFT that someone gets, and that gives them membership for 1 year. Would Switzerland and an association, and sorry, my daughter's crying in the background if the noise is coming over, but if Switzerland and Liechtenstein and Marshall Islands, do each of those countries offer token ownership of a DAO and membership regarding NFTs and tokens?
I can answer for what I know. Maybe then Svetlin can answer for his own knowledge. I can tell you this, that Marshall Islands as an advantage, because it's as far as I know at least, is the only jurisdiction which allows to not have directors, which is something which works better with the idea of a decentralized governance. As far as I know, in Liechtenstein and in Switzerland, you still need to have directors. I'm sure for Liechtenstein, if you set up yeah, but I think also in Switzerland, Marshall Islands, as far as I know, because they created this new law based on the idea of DAOs. So they created. I spoke some weeks ago with Adam Miller from IDAO, that I assume you are in contact with.
Yes.
Yeah, and we explored this issue. And as far as I know, the Marshall Islands has this advantage of being letting you have a real decentralized governance system. But then the issue of the token, it's a real tricky question as far as I know. I personally, I don't want to say that is. I would say that in no one of these places, in my opinion, as far as I know, there is a clear 100% guarantee that you can issue a token and not having any problem. That's what I really understood. Speaking with the,
I think that the question was not about issuing a token. The question was determining membership of a DAO or voting rights or decision-making rights through token-based voting. Because we don't plan to issue any token, so we have tokens, but we would want decisions to be made in the DAO by the holders of a specific token or of our token. And we would potentially, and in best case, have these token-based governance vote be legally binding decision-making processes of the DAO, and not just something like we know in Switzerland. Okay, might be a governance vote, and then the directors could follow this vote, but there is no legal obligation that they really have to. While it might be in Marshall Islands that governance votes issued on a blockchain following specific rules act as binding decisions of the members of the DAO.
Svetlin, let me say, and then I will give you the floor. I think, as far as I know, that what you just mentioned, Philo, is the best jurisdiction is Marshall Island. It's the only one that is really the legislation has been really being built in a way that will let you do that. I mean, automatically recognize the output of a vote through NFT or whatever. However, what I was going to say in terms of the token, issuing the token, because for example, in LexDAO, LexDAO, we have, when you become a member of LexDAO, you receive an NFT, and then you vote in snapshot with that NFT. Okay. And there are votes, every week, every 2 weeks, whatever. And you basically, to vote on snapshot, you need to connect your wallet and have that NFT in your wallet. If you don't have that NFT, you cannot vote. But that NFT, it just yes, it can be transferred, but basically has no value. There is no, it's not even nobody is going to sell. So what I'm going to say, something like that, you can do it kind of everywhere because there is no tokens that you issued really. The question is, if you are issuing a token, which is a governance token, and this token has a value because it's also listed in some exchange or in marketplaces. And then there is a regulatory issue here.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
what I wanted to mention before. But if it's just an NFT, and even more, if it's a soul-bound NFT, you really have no regulatory problem.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. How about if we were comparing? I mean, I would assume Marshall Islands are very liberal when it comes to having a nonprofit versus a for-profit DAO. And when I say for-profit, I mean like, we're going to fund proposals. We don't seek anything for that, but we want potentially the opportunity that if we give a proposal, let's say if we fund a proposal, we may, if the proposal receiver wants to, maybe give us 5% equity or give us 5% back in their tokens. Or we may want to do some unique ways to increase the treasury. So maybe we take money from tokens from the treasury, we put them in a DeFi application by buying and holding another token, and then get an annual return on that. Would you guys have any, like if we compare Liechtenstein versus Switzerland Association? So we're a nonprofit, but we seek to make profit only to fund more projects, right? We're not actually dispersing that to DAO members, committee members, organizations. We're not dispersing that as profits, but we're seeking to build the treasury so we can fund more projects.
As long as you have commercial endeavors to boost the non-profit arm of your organization.
Sorry, I think someone needed to mute themselves. Nothing. I think someone was.
Fine. So this activity is considered as a side business that is supportive to the main scope of actions of the non-profit organization. In terms of taxation, I see some advantages of Marshall Islands, but in general, there is no big difference whether you use this or that structure, having in mind that you're allowed to have equity participation or even get some monetary instruments and utilize them for the purpose of NGO activity. Maybe operating an MI structure would be easier for you, and this is not tax advice or legal advice, but from my experience, I think the ultimate tax result will be favorable with this setup. Swiss entity is also a good opportunity, but the level of planning and structuring is far different, and you need a very good advisor to help you out with that. This is based on my personal experience, of course.
Yeah.
I will say I totally agree. In relation to your question, what will happen if a no-profit will get some shares or equity in a profit corporation? You do really have to check with local professionals in each of these jurisdictions. Personally, I don't know. But I wanted to tell you that based on what Adam Miller told me some weeks ago, I think that no profit is not yet available in the Marshall Islands. Told me something like next month or in a couple of months there will be the possibility of setting up no-profit entities in Marshall Islands. But you have to check with him, obviously.
Yeah, we actually one of the gentlemen in our group is in contact with Adam. Has actually set up one for their DAO, and we plan on talking with him potentially next week if he has time. So I'll write that down though and ask him that about the nonprofit status. How about? I mean, I've heard that Liechtenstein has recently set up like legal precedents for DAOs. Have you seen that, or it's hard to find stuff online though, actual information on that? And I have reached out to one of the firms. We may have a meeting next week too to hear their side. But I appreciate your guys because you give the overall, and then we can kind of ask the local in those jurisdictions. But I'm sure each one will say we're the best, or I'm here. So
Yeah. We say in my country that if you ask the owner of a restaurant how is the wine, will say yeah, very good. Yes, that's. I wanted to add one. I don't know in relation to your question. Really, you have to check with the local professionals in Liechtenstein. I will say that if I assume there are here people that speak German or are German native speakers, they might do a research in German. I think give more information there in English.
Specifically on the DAO's venture, I don't have. I haven't received any updates, but what we have as a good resource that you may want to initially check is available on the study group in LexDAO Clinic. There is the research on TVTG, the Liechtenstein Blockchain Act. I led the session maybe a month and a half ago. I think I can share the materials at Lex Clinic with you because I don't know how to do it here on the general
yeah,
channel.
if you send it to me, and if I am able to, I can present that to the group. That'd be great.
Cool.
Okay. How about I'll open questions up to the group. We got maybe 15 minutes left in the hour. I know we didn't get to everything, but I think it's been really good so far. But does anyone else in the group have specific questions for Paulo and Svetlik? If not, I can keep going through the questions. So,
Can I add just one point before?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say, based on my experience, there is I think an important difference between Switzerland and Liechtenstein on one hand and Marshall Islands on the other hand. If you, I don't know because it depends on which firms will help you, but in generally speaking, if you go Switzerland and Liechtenstein are generally a little bit more expensive, and also it's different because you have to, when you set up, you create a company, usually you have to pass through a notary, then there is the accountancy, there are all this stuff that you will find also in Germany or in the US. On the other hand, in Marshall Islands, you don't have anything like that. It's a pure offshore jurisdiction, so there is no accountancy, not only in terms of money or tax, but also in terms of work, administrative work. Finding the accountant, speaking with the accountant. It does exist that in the Marshall Islands. But you will have to do that in Switzerland, in Liechtenstein, in these places.
What about when regards to Marshall Islands? I mean, man, there have been some crazy cases come out in America with DAOs. Now, granted, I don't know. I didn't look too much into it, but and I wouldn't be surprised that the DAO was acting not in good measures. But the regulators came down and said anyone that voted in the DAO is liable for these actions. And I worry that Marshall Islands is just tied too closely to America. What would be your experience, where they stay pretty segregated as long as your DAO is acting in legally, you know, not doing anything illegally.
In my opinion, there is neither an advantage nor a disadvantage between the Marshall Islands and the U.S. I mean, if Gensler thinks that somebody stopping the U.S. will go against being that DAO incorporated in Marshall Islands, in Liechtenstein, Switzerland, in Germany, whatever.
But JD, I think as far as I have seen and observed it, all those cases have usually been made against DAOs that have not been incorporated. So they always claim you have formed a general partnership because you failed to set up a legal entity. I'm not aware of cases where SEC or US regulators went against, let's say, a Delaware LLC DAO or a Vermont or a Wyoming LLC DAO, because as soon as you have set up this legal entity and you offer this framework for your members, you basically, this is actually why you do it. And all these cases that we read, they are currently going against Compound as issuer of the Compound tokens and stuff like that, are always because they have never ever established any legal wrapper or legal entity, and so they are seen as a general partnership, and everybody that ever voted will be seen as a part of this partnership. As this is how I understand it. So that's basically the reason why we are looking for legal setup and incorporation, so that whoever will vote in the DAO, and I know Rob, I think you can confirm it. Marshall Islands, you keep a track of all addresses that ever voted on a proposal, and if you keep track on those addresses, basically the owners of those addresses automatically are part of the liability protection that Marshall Islands offers. Rob, you done this already for content creator DAO, yeah?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not just keeping track of it, but it's also submitting the list of addresses as part of your paperwork that's held in the Marshall Islands. And I mean, it doesn't have to be tied to any specific handles or person's name. It's just a digital identifier that shows membership in the DAO.
Okay.
Yeah, I
But
think that's actually a question I was just thinking of. Like, we've got so many different jurisdictions, and obviously the way the Marshall Islands is currently set up, where you just need a digital identifier. I mean, the privacy implications for members is going to be crucial in the foundation of any DAO. So, like, can members be anonymous? Is a digital identifier satisfactory? And can this membership, like we were talking about, can this membership be defined through ownership of a token, but also can membership easily be transferred? Because if somebody holds a token and they're a member and then they get rid of their tokens, are they still a member because they held tokens, or is the transfer of the token enough to issue this new owner as a member into the legal entity? Because the privacy for the community is going to be very, very important. And I mean, the Marshall Islands, we're aware that that's possible. I've heard of it happening in Liechtenstein, but I'm not sure about what the deal is with directors and members and committees and stuff, and whether that sort of side of the privacy is actually a thing anywhere else. Do you guys know anything about that?
no, but I wanted to say that there are, coming back to what Philo was saying before, I know that there are a couple of cases where the SEC has gone against. I'm not sure if it were DAOs or companies, but they were incorporated in the US. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you are incorporated or not. The question is if the SEC thinks that you issue the token, which is a security.
Okay.
I think I'm from this standpoint, really, I think it's also a little bit. This is something similar that also Bian said. It's a bit about what are you really operating. Are we operating a DeFi protocol that is issuing an own token and operates a decentralized exchange, which is of course kind of a higher risk scenario from the legal side than what we are basically doing. Yeah, being a non-profit organization that gives out money to support an ecosystem is kind of, there's not so much risky things that we are basically doing compared to a DeFi protocol that could be worth billions of dollars and could be worth targeting for the SEC because you basically sell stuff to investors and you do issue it in a security and stuff like this. Basically, we don't have that risk. We have other risks still, but I think we are on the low risk side of crypto operations with this grand DAO thing. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
No.
super risky. Yeah.
Paulo Sputnik, where is the Let's DAO incorporated? Out of curiosity.
Wyoming. No
may I give a hint on the previous topic? Just a quick one.
Sure.
I totally agree that your project poses lower risk in terms of securities operations and centralized or decentralized exchange activities. You shall be cautious, however, of the typical money laundering and risk-related activities occurring through the non-profit organizations. This is something that pose a certain risk level, and having in mind that these typologies might be utilized throughout virtual currencies pushes the risk in upper level. But definitely, I don't see exposure of that kind that may result in some CFTC filings or some big cases that we see nowadays with regulators going after DAOs. Another fact that may calm you a little bit is that there are DAOs like Uniswap, Aave, what else? Maybe MakerDAO that haven't been hit with regulator claims so far. We never know what may happen. So yeah, the provisions of the operating agreement is important, and the entire structure and organization of work is crucial to keep the DAO fit and open to respond to some legal actions.
So if our DAO was to, let's just say, incorporate in Marshall Islands, is that, like, I'm trying to say, like, how can the Let's DAO support the Shimmer DAO with legal services? Or is it like, if we start taking part in European Union activities, then maybe we would need legal representation there? Is that, like, I'm just trying to see what your guys' services are on the legal side.
I repeat, it's not Lex DAO. It's just to make
Clinic,
clear.
sorry.
No, it's not. Just to make it clear, it's not Lex DAO. It would be under my firm. What we can do it, and is in terms of Marshall Islands, we can give you advice in how to better create the company in the Marshall Islands, meaning, and especially in relation to the token, the regulatory problems of the token. That is really where the liability lies. If we want to speak the truth, I was the example. I was unlikely. I was saying the beginning of the event is a kind of unlikely. The real problems comes with the regulatory stuff. So what we can do it is that, and I did for other clients, interacting with Adam Miller of MidDAO, and acting as your legal counselor and optimizing to the best the Marshall Island entity. That is in relation to Marshall Island. In relation to the European Union, we can give you a legal advisory in relation to how to the regulatory issues about tokens, NFTs, these kind of things in the European Union, how to interact with the European Union, with the entities based in the European Union for these kind of things.
Okay. Cool.
Further on, we may
yes, sir.
cover drafting of all the data privacy policies and AML and terrorist financing prevention procedures and policies that at this point are very important for keeping the organization in a structured way.
Yeah, that. I mean, it seems like no matter where we are, one of the biggest risks, especially we need to look at funding in tokens or funding in stablecoin, but to ensure we don't cross any of those barriers, that it doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're at, they're going to come for you. So that's excellent.
Yeah, we did, for example, the terms of use and the privacy policy of Lex DAO himself. I did for Constitution DAO too. You know, there is this second Constitution DAO project ongoing at the moment. I wrote the terms of use, so we can do that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd say that comes to an hour. I don't want to take you guys' time too much. Maybe if anyone has any last questions out there. And if not, is there anything else you gentlemen would like to share? Okay. Well, Paulo, Svetlik, I really appreciate your time. This has been extremely helpful. And definitely, I think we'll keep you in mind when we get to the point of creation. I really like the anti-money laundering privacy regarding framework to give us some better risk protection as we form, and know that you guys are there if we have any activities in the European Union or anything. So thank you very much.
Anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bye,
man.
guys.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot,
Bye-bye.
everyone. This was really helpful.
Very pleasure.
Philo, do you want to stay on so we can chat with the group a little bit?
Yeah, we can.
No,
we can
I have to
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Paulo.
Paulo. Bye-bye, Svetlik.
Goodbye, everyone.
all right.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Okay,
Svetlik.
thanks.
And quickly, because this is a lot of minutes, would Laura, Asa, one of you want to be able to do minutes on this meeting, please?
Sure.
Laura,
Okay.
We are taking
Laura
notes.
was listening and taking notes. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And then, if you could just post that word link, and then I'll move it over to the Notion page. So if people are good with it, there's the Liechtenstein law firm that I can try to reach out to, which would be Tuesday. I think it was
5
What
p.m.
was it?
5 p.m. You said. Yeah. 5 p.m. CET.
5 p.m. CET time. It's kind of late, but they're giving us free time, like 1 hour consultation. So I'm not going to really argue with them. If people are good with that, I'll try to schedule that. And then, again, I think it's best for the lawyers that we get our questions and I can send it to them like 2 days prior, so they get an idea. Like Paulo had asked me a lot about the DAO, of how we got the tokens, and just getting an idea behind it. But I have to say, my takeaway from that is that it does sound like Marshall Islands is,
Yeah.
Some of the best.
Yeah, we're always coming back to that, because like I said, it's the only place that really comes close to what people would imagine of being a DAO. Yeah, you're pseudo anonymous. You use your tokens or any whatever kind of tokens, and they fall under legal binding decisions, and you don't have this people in power positions that you have in all other jurisdictions, basically. And was always from the beginning when I started looking into Marshall Islands. It's super interesting. Yeah, and I think Rob, Linus, you're happy actually with how it works with them, and there seems to be not so much complexity involved, and regulations here and there. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't like the idea. For whatever reason, I don't know why, I feel like Marshall Islands is like the Cayman Islands. Like, if the U.S. says jump, they'll say how high. But I like their idea of adding protected measures to mitigate risks, such as agreeing that we should set a precedence to not fund more than 45% activities in any one legal jurisdiction region.
Yeah.
And then
this was really helpful.
Didn't even think. Yeah, and then write in the contract to separate the liability with the proposal receiver. Hey, we're funding you, but everything you do after this is on you. We have nothing involved after that. It's completely separated. And then the anti-money laundering framework, I can't remember the name, but in our companies here, there's all these OSHA regulations that you have to have, basically your procedures. So, once we have those procedures, we know what we can and cannot do. And if anything, it shows any country that tries to sue us to say, hey, we have done the best that we can in due diligence to be as safe as we can.
Can I possibly pose a suggestion going into the legal meetings and things?
Yeah, of course.
We've all got like this way of chatting to each other in the community and stuff, and we tend to have our stories and we waffle on. But going into these legal meetings, I think it's really important because it's valuable time to really coordinate, have one person communicating, be precise on the questions, try and get as much information out of them as possible, because as soon as that hour's up, and if we've missed anything, then we've missed anything. So going into these, I think it would be cool to have somebody just like for example, you, JD, you're sending them the questions a couple of days before, and then when we get into the meeting, it's okay, here's point 1, here's point 2, here's point 3, and just fire through everything.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get a lot more out of those than maybe this more of a conversational community vibe.
Well, I know with these guys, they aren't specific to a jurisdiction. They're actually more European Union than anything. So I figured this was going to be more of a overview. But that is why, I'm, pleased, by all means, we can put top 10 questions, right? I just need the questions from you guys that we can then go one by one. Now with the Liechtenstein guys next, it'll be very much more easier to say, does Liechtenstein provide this? Does Liechtenstein provide that? It was very hard to say. A lot of these questions are like, what's the annual setup fee? And they didn't really want to give specifics on each country because they're not necessarily representative of each country. But he did say, administrative costs, running costs, setup costs would be cheaper in Marshall Islands. Though I think you have to compare that against I think it's the 1% annual management fee. So it really just depends on your treasury. But I totally agree with that. So by all means, that's why I'm trying to put the questions up there. And I was trying to get the questions in your document, Adam, that we don't have, and we can just form one set. But if you want to prioritize any of those questions over others, maybe highlight them in red or something, and I'll try to then we could just go through one by one, asking the Liechtenstein guys and maybe Adam from the MyDAO if he gives us some time.
I think it's down to the community to decide what's most important. From from my personal perspective going into this, I think privacy and recognition of membership is super important. Like we know that's a thing in the Marshall Islands, and we've heard about it on blog posts about Liechtenstein and stuff like that. But I think one of the most important things that's always forgotten in these discussions is transfer of membership. Like holding a token makes you a member, and as soon as that token's transferred away, am I still a member, or does the new person automatically gain membership? Because that's got to be legally recognized. And again, it's this hierarchy, the power that the directors have, that the committee has, that the members have. Can a token vote be exclusively like controlling of the entire DAO, or do the directors have power to overrule votes and things like that? So it's more from a operational perspective than anything else. When it comes to the token side of things, a lot of that is already public. A lot of that is already accessible online. I think from a business perspective, it's more going to be about the tax and things when it comes to the finances, like startup capital. So what will we be taxed on startup capital, like 0.5% or zero?
Right.
Tax on annual income, tax on annual balance, like end of year balance, like Marshall Islands, there's like this 1% or something, isn't there? So it's all of these sorts of things that will be specifically different in each jurisdiction. Those are going to be the most important things, because like as far as recognizing a DAO, we know so far that technically only a few states in America and Marshall Islands legally recognize what a DAO is. But even then, there are disadvantages and jurisdictional alternatives that we need to look at. And tax is going to be a huge impact. And like you said earlier, JD, it's looking at employment as well.
Yeah.
So are there any jurisdictional regulations in place that restrict a director from a non-resident director, or from specific jurisdictions? Like in the EU, you have to have an EU director. Is that the same? Do you have to have somebody in Europe? Do you have to have somebody here? Like, oh, we've got one person who's actually based in Korea, like North Korea. Can he be part of the DAO? Of course. Like, are there any restrictions? And every jurisdiction is going to be completely different from this respect. So,
yeah. Cool. Yes, I think I'll shoot for Liechtenstein legal firm Tuesday. Potentially Adam from my DAO on Wednesday, and I'll basically just wait, Rob, throughout the day. If he doesn't get back, well, if we're going to shoot for Tuesday, we're going to shoot for Tuesday. So I'll start. I won't send the Liechtenstein firm the questions till later today or tomorrow. Give them the weekend to digest that, and then. And Philo, you said Anya might join for the Liechtenstein one?
Yeah, she Tuesday or Wednesday she will very likely have time, so she might be able to join even both. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, it would be good too at some point, because I feel like she's probably has the most concept of Switzerland. So I think what we have is we've got the Lexstyle guys give us the overall, just in their general. Anya could give us the Swiss Association side, Liechtenstein firm give us the Liechtenstein side, and then Adam from my DAO give us the Marshall Islands side. We put everything together, and then we make a decision, and we start moving forward. So I think we're close. We're there. So yeah, I mean, if at all she could even come on her own and just let us basically ask these same questions, that would be great. But if she, is joining with Adam or the Liechtenstein firm, so be it. That's good too.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she can also hop in half an hour for a usual regular call on her experience with the association and stuff like that. Yeah.
Do we want to incorporate is anyone against incorporating these requirements into the version 3 framework, such as set a precedence that no more than 45% of any proposal funding or activities are conducted in one single region. And that basically mitigates us from any country saying, oh, most of your business is here. You have to abide by our regulations.
I like it, but I would wait really with this until we would potentially have really something very close in mind with where we want to set up, because then we will anyway have to implement a couple of specific regulations. So with the version 3, I mean, I can put it on now, but I'm sure we will get to 2 or 3 more iterations of the framework until everything is 100% clearly defined as it has to be. We have to see if there needs to be some specific rules on quorum or things like that we would need to change. So I can put up, but still I think with the final version we will probably have to wait until we have a clarity on which legal entity we choose, and then implement those specific requirements that are coming from this restriction to make sure that we have it written into the framework what we really need to do to ensure that we are compliant with the regulation and with the entity. Yeah.
And I mean, I think
it's also
go ahead, Adam.
I think it's also important, following on from that, that we understand what the limitations are for each jurisdiction and what is recognized as activity. Because in a lot of business senses, activity is the generation of income. So are we getting money from a jurisdiction, not specifically putting money into another jurisdiction? So it's like it needs a lot of legal advice in that respect. So just putting it into the framework now is probably just a waste of time, because it'll probably get changed.
I mean, I also just like the idea that we would be diversified in funding globally. But I mean, I agree. Most of the activity is from Germany, just in IOTA. So, wouldn't want to limit that funding activities.
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, the good thing is if we would really potentially go with Paolo or any other lawyer, because they will then draft some proper legal wording, and these wording is what we then have to put into the framework as real statutes of the operation. And I will wait until we have made a decision which direction we want to go, draft specific wordings for the operational agreements, for the statutes, for the contract, and put them all together in a final version of the framework. Yeah.
I also think we'd have to go in partner with them with another legal firm or something from the jurisdiction as well. I think it's important.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on those guys. I mean, they're experienced with DAO, but as they've said, like, regional jurisdiction it's super important. So yeah, it's great that we can have this sort of like guideline for the framework and the articles of association for the company and whatever. But it really needs to be supported by regional legal advice as well.
Yeah. And then just from last meeting, just on like to-dos, Werner had stated he's going to write an article on strategic funding. So we just talked about, Philo, just like trying to get an idea of, what I know we kind of wrote that in the article, but maybe a little bit more refined. And in the chat, if you scroll up, Linus posted a picture of like Binance, how they show how they want to strategically fund granting. So Werner was going to write that, and we were going to try to, just so we can focus, what should we prioritize to grant, maybe strong prioritization, medium, and low, such as, maybe we don't need a block explorer because we already have two, but we need digital identity, whatever it is. And then I reached out to Mark Schmidt. He said definitely they could support us for legal. Like, let's say we needed to hire a local legal advisor, to in that jurisdiction we incorporate, as well as maybe we want to hire someone like Paulo or anyone else to help the framework actually be legal verbiage. We can easily submit to there for either funding that we pay back or whatever.
Yep.
And then I talked to him about strategic funding as well, and what he thought the ecosystem needs for funding, and he said, so that we're not, each DAO should have their sort of direction. And he said, their DAO is kind of the boring stuff, developer infrastructure, UI stuff, working with integrations like Ledger and Gnosis, getting IOTA in there, education, research. And his suggestion was just that our DAO takes the more risky stuff, like maybe talking with someone from Polygon and, giving them $100,000 if they come and build something on IOTA or on Shimmer, or doing funky marketing, spreads word of mouth stuff. So that was just his. I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important because in the end we will have 3 grant giving entities in the ecosystem,
Right.
which is kind of
Right.
confusing, and we should avoid double funding or that everybody
Yes.
focuses on the same priorities. Every one of these entities will have their own strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. So of course, TIA with Mark, they have a lot of experience. They have the technical knowledge. They have the backing of the IF engineers, so they can do very deep technical stuff. This here is more community focused, with more pulse and feeling in the community. Then we will have the growth committee, which will be a mix of both. So we will have to sit down all together once this is all decided, and really decide who should prioritizing what. And then if you get, I envision actually that if we have all the 3 things set up, and there comes a proposal in that looks too complex or too strange for the community treasury, we can still use our internal channels and say, hey, growth committee or Mark, here's a proposal. For us, it seems to be too complex, it's too technical, but might it be something for TIA to fund? And I think in the end, we all 3 entities will work together for the ecosystem to make the best out of that. And so having some priorities defined from the front, that also people, when they know to apply to which entity, will make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I
And
think
Mark,
there's a lot of ifs in there, though, so it's only something that can be defined when we know the full ecosystem structure.
Absolutely.
Because it's all up in the air at the moment.
well, yeah, but Mark said he'll come, probably after we take care of all this lawyer stuff and after the Christmas, New Year. He's happy to come join a meeting, and I'm going to reach out to Christian from Touchpoint, and probably be good to have both of them in one of our meetings, and then we can kind of just discuss that and kind of at least see what their directions are, and then we could always kind of look at what we want our directions are to be. But cool. All right. Well, I hope that was informative for everyone, and hopefully after all these legal meetings, we can agree on where to form and start moving forward. So thanks, everyone.
I appreciate you setting that up. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I'm interested to hear from the Liechtenstein guys, because it didn't seem like they had much experience. And I'll try to get that document that he was saying. I guess he had done some research on their.
I'm in their Discord. I can scout if I find it in the LexDAO Discord. He said they have a reading group there and a study group, so I might find it. If not, we'll ping him and maybe he can send it over.
Yeah, I'll shoot him a message and get it from him. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.